Wild 6, Carolina Hurricanes 2. The score doesn't quite do it justice. Minnesota Wild were up 6-0 in this hockey game before the Hurricanes added a couple goals here. But first, you got to be pleased with the Minnesota Wild. They took care of business here at home tonight, and when they're in such a dogfight in the Western Conference playoff picture, getting the points at home very crucial. But I was a little bit disappointed in what we saw from Carolina. Was expecting a little bit more from them as they're just on the outside looking into a playoff picture. But I guess when you have a team that's still that young, I guess you probably expect that a little bit. But so disappointed from them. But again, got to tip your hat to the Wild for just getting the job done tonight. And probably for them, it feels good to be on the giving end of those waxing efforts rather than receiving, as we saw most notably last Saturday against Colorado. And the story of the game here, probably again, Eric Staal. We sit here game and game again, we talk about how great Eric Staal is and how remarkable his turnaround has been. And it doesn't feel like you're just, beating an old horse here by saying that, because I think with each passing game that he continues to do this, it's just more and more impressive. And as I said on the new podcast, I believe he is a Hart Trophy candidate. And, being 15th or 17th and scoring aside, I believe Eric Hart is a legitimate Hart Trophy candidate in the league, and I hope people take more and more notice of what he's doing here for the Minnesota Wild, because they would be absolutely lost without him. So hat tip to him for his 2 goals tonight. And Mikko Koivu had a couple of helpers. Ryan Suter, a couple of helpers. I think Jared Spurgeon had a couple of points as well. I mean, great effort from Minnesota tonight. Devin Dubnyk was sharp very early. I think we really forget, lost in that 4-goal second period and a span of 3.5 minutes, was Devin Dubnyk was absolutely incredible in the first period, and this game could easily have gone a much different way had he not been on top of his game. And something we kind of forget here is that the game rolled along. Was he made a lot of big saves in the first period, a lot of defensive miscues by the Wild. The top 2 pairs were not particularly good in that first period, so credit to Dubnyk for keeping the Wild up 1-0 at the break and getting them to where they needed to be to put their foot on the gas in the second period and get the win. So Wild get a couple of days off now. They're off till Friday night when they're in Vancouver against the Brock Besser-Less Canucks. Also no Thomas Vanek for Vancouver, so really you're just looking at the Sedins in Vancouver on Friday night. So there's a 2 points on the road that you need to get. Then the Wild are going right to Edmonton Saturday. So there's a good chance for, I would say an expectation should be 3 out of 4 points in those 2 games before they come back home next week. But, you got to start collecting these winnable games against, non-playoff teams starting on Friday. So that's just a little bit to look ahead. That can do it for this post-game recap. If you have not yet, do check out the most recent Giles and the Goalie Podcast, episode 140. Ben and I go over Eric Staal's Hart Trophy candidacy, as we talked about earlier. Alex Stalock, how many starts he would get. Luke Cunnin before his untimely injury. We actually were probably talking about Luke Cunnin on the podcast as his injury took place. So we'll have an update on him on the new podcast next week. But we talked about his call-up from Iowa, among other things. So do check that out. It is on SoundCloud, iTunes, if you listen to podcasts that way, or it's also on our YouTube channel. So do give that a look, and we will talk to you before the game on Friday. Later.